Welcome to the next episode of Stevia Chef. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to make oatmeal raisin cookies. As you can see, we've got oatmeal. Any oatmeal will do. We use Quaker Oats on this one. You're going to need some eggs, JAJA Stevioside, which is the best that you can get. It's pure product as opposed to the stuff that's cut with something else. So this gives a much better taste, and it's much easier to use, much better to use. Use some vanilla extract, and cinnamon, and also regular flour. So what we're going to do first is, since the recipe calls for 1 cup of all-purpose flour, we're going to take make sure you use unbleached flour. It's much better, and actually the best bet nowadays is to go with organic flour, because they're now starting to do genetically modified wheat. Wonderful, isn't it? Okay, so we measure 1 cup. And you can see 1 cup. You can see 1 cup of flour. So what I do is I'm mixing this 1 cup of flour separately. Since I only have one measuring cup, I'm using separate bowls for everything. So I'll set this flour aside. Then it would be 3 cups the oatmeal. So we're going to measure that and put that in this other bowl. So we've got 3 cups. Rather than using oil, I much prefer to use So Delicious coconut milk, unsweetened. And that's a real key. Make sure that it is unsweetened. Whether you use milk, whether you use almond milk, whether you use coconut milk, if you use soy milk, if you use almond milk, whatever kind you use, make sure it is unsweetened. That is the real key. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take I'm going to start with 1/2 of a cup, roughly. And then I'm going to measure in 1/2 of a teaspoon of Stevioside. And the thing that's really nice with these 15-gram bottles is there's a little lid inside, so it's spoonable. And it's got a little edge, so you can have, like here, if you can see there's too much, I can just run it right across the top here, and it levels it out. So I'll take the Stevioside, mix 1/2. I need 1 cup, or one teaspoon of Stevioside. So I'll take 2 1/2 teaspoons, mix those in, and then use chopsticks, or you can use a whisk, or a fork, or a spoon, or whatever you want. Make sure that it's mixed thoroughly. This way, the Stevioside gets dispersed evenly. Otherwise, you'll end up with just a clump here, a clump there. And you don't want to do 1 whole cup in the mixing cup at one time, because it can get a little messy as you're mixing. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to break 3 eggs. So let me get this out of the way. We like to use organic eggs. And you can either use organic or you can use regular. Organic is obviously going to be healthier. Preferably organic free range, or organic uncaged, cage-free eggs. And 3 eggs. And no shells. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're just going to beat the eggs. No, don't beat me! No! beating the eggs. So we're not going to use any oil. What we're doing is we're substituting the Stevioside, we're substituting the milk for the oil. And once you get them all beaten, it'll look like this. And then what we'll do, we're going to add in the flour. So we want to make sure to mix that in very good. It'll probably end up being a little bit too, you won't get a good mix from that at first. So our next step is to mix in 1/2 cup of the Stevioside and milk. So we're using the JAJA Stevioside, or JAJA, well the Stevioside is 95% plus steviol glycosides, and we use that because it's pure, it's grown organically, even though it's not certified organic, but it is grown under organic conditions. It's available either in bulk, 1/2 kilo, or you can get it in 8 ounce, and of course the 15 gram. The 15 gram is really nice to carry around with you, and it's also handy for measuring and all. Okay, so once we get this mixed up, and we've got a nice batter going here. Batter up. What we're going to do is we're going to mix in cinnamon. So we'll take, it would be 1 cup of cinnamon, or 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. We'll mix in 1/2 and 1/2 teaspoon. So we've got 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. We'll mix this in. Starting to look like eggnog. Make it a nice festival holiday spirit here. Of course, the cinnamon you'll add to taste. You may want a little bit more cinnamon, you may want a little less cinnamon. And you can actually even add other things. You could add other spices. You may want to add some ginger to it, which would be really nice. It's a nice tasting thing, but we're just doing the cinnamon raisin cookies today. Oatmeal raisin cookies today. The reason I like to use chopsticks instead of a whisk is the chopsticks have a tendency to mix things a little bit easier than the whisk does. Okay, once we have this to a nice batter, then what we do is we're going to add the oatmeal. Okay, so we've done, through the magic of video, we've done a little rearranging here. We want to mix this all up, make sure that it's coated really well, so it's a nice thick batter. And we do need to add a little bit more coconut milk into this. You can see it's not liquidy enough, it's not spreading enough. Close. So we're going to add about 1/4 cup. You're going to do this just to get to the consistency that you want, which will be a kind of a thick batter. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to add 1 tablespoon or 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. You do that to taste, so you may want to do more, you may want to do less. We've got 1/2, actually we'll do 1.5 of 1.5 teaspoons. vanilla extract. The best ones you can get would be the vanilla extract that has no sugar in it. So read the label. If it does say sugar on the vanilla extract, then you want to make sure that it's cane sugar, not beet sugar. If it's beet sugar, you can guarantee, or 99% positive, that it is genetically modified, and we want to stay away from genetically modified because it's not healthy for you. That's one of the beauties on the JAJA Stevioside, is that it is not genetically modified. It's pure product, and anything that is organically grown cannot contain genetically modified or GMO ingredients or products, byproducts, what have you. And JAJA Stevioside is not GMO. It is pure, it's real stuff. Okay, so now we've got this mixed, and you can see it's got a nice consistency to it. And what we'll do at this point is we're going to add in 1 cup of raisins. So kind of beat these up a little bit, mix them up a little bit. And you can add more raisins if you want, more to taste or less, whatever your choice would be. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually fill this up with a little bit more than, fill this cup with a little bit more than what the measuring would be of one cup of raisins. And there is a very easy way to go with when you're going to measure fruit or anything, well, fruit especially, into as a cup. And what you do is you fill it halfway with water, and then you fill the rest with the fruit, and then you can pour off the water. When it gets to be one cup, then you know you've got a half a cup of the fruit. But I didn't want to add any water to this, so I didn't do it that way. Okay, so we mix this up, make sure that it's stirred nice and well. It's got a very nice smell to it. I wish you could smell that. One day, through the magic of video, there will be smell as well. But for right now, you're just going to have to take my word for it. And here's what it looks like. Nice and glistening and all. And now we're just getting ready to bake. Oh, we do need to add a little bit of baking soda also, so I will do that in a second. Okay, so we're going to put in 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Usually you want to mix that in a little bit sooner. Mix it into the liquid as opposed to what I just did here. And we'll mix this in. Once I have this done, we'll be right back, and I'll show you putting it out on the trays and things, and then we'll start to bake. That we had no fat, no oil that we put in here. And what I do is I always put parchment paper at the bottom because it creates a safe non-stick surface, as opposed to using Teflon, which has been shown to affect your memory. It's been linked to Alzheimer's and other things. Okay, so now we're ready to make this, and what we're going to do is, you can see the mix here. And by the way, one of the nice things on the Stevioside is when you have it in a little 15-gram bottle like this, you buy the bulk and then you can just refill the bottles as you need. And you can also do a storage thing like what I'll do here, as well as I'll put it into a giant pickle jar that's been deodorized, and then I put some plastic on top and then wrap it. And it just becomes much easier for me to use when I want to fill up, and it'll stay forever. You just make sure that you use glass as opposed to a plastic jar when you're doing long-term storage. And a little bit of moisture doesn't doesn't really bother it. We're here in Florida, so you know what the humidity living in the swamp. Okay, I've got this nice and mixed up. So just take a spoonful, put it out, kind of make it into the shape that I want. Another good use for chopsticks there. You can see it's kind of sticky, which is exactly the consistency that you want. Now, if you make these really thick, then they won't be quite as crispy as what you get if you make them thin. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time to spread these out and make them thin, and I'll be back to you after the magic of video once this is all set. You can see these are pretty much finished spreading it out. And the interesting thing about this recipe is, one thing to keep in mind is that the cookies are not going to rise. So whatever, and they're not going to expand. So whatever shape you have put these in before you bake, that's the shape, and that's how it's going to look like when you finish baking. Second thing is, we didn't add any oil to it. So keep that in mind. You know, if somebody's on a low-fat diet, this is a perfect thing for them. And if they're on a sugar-restricted diet, remember we did not add any sugar to it. All we did, we added the Stevioside to the cookies. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to toss this into the oven. I'll scrape up whatever I can that's left here. I'm going to toss it into the oven at 350 degrees, and we'll bake it for probably about a half an hour till it gets nice and golden brown, and then we'll just have to set it out for it to dry. One of the things that I like to do additionally is I like to sprinkle the top of these before I bake them with cinnamon. It seems to just give it a little bit more of a festive taste. So we'll put a little bit of cinnamon on top here. And how much you put on, or how little you put on, or if you put any on, that's all up to you. What I did find is the cinnamon does help to enhance the taste a little bit. And if you see any empty spots, after you've spread out the cookie dough, fill them in, because again, it just won't fill in while you're baking. So this is the way you get a nice solid cookie. Okay, I will see you once these come out of the oven. Okay, through the magic of video, these have now been baked. And you can tell they're baked when you can tell by the smell, you can tell by looking at them. What we like to do is put a rack out on the counter, and then I can just take the cookies, let them cool directly on the rack. If you let them cool in the pan, then the problem is that they end up getting very soggy. So this way you can get some nice crispy cookies, and that's what we want. So we'll take this out, we can move some of the cookies over here. I usually just leave them on the paper, and as you can see, they come off very, very easy. Again, there was no fat, no grease, no oil that was used. They don't stick. And we're all set to let them do their final cooling, and then they'll be ready for eating. Now, we do like to use JAJA Stevioside. That's JAJA Stevioside, because it is pure, because it does taste very good. And again, JAJA Stevioside is available in either the 15-gram bottle, half a kilo, or an 8-ounce bag. And it's pure, there's nothing else added to it. Cooks great, mixes perfectly into baked goods, cold, what have you. So, till I see you next time, enjoy.